The Australian Red Cross Society has the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and friends, one and all. I'd like to start off by saying that I think that this resolution is one whose time has truly come. It is a resolution which challenges the legitimacy of the use of nuclear weapons as a weapon of war and calls for the adoption, ultimately, of some legally binding international instrument which, among other things, renders the use of nuclear weapons unambiguously illegal under international law. Mr. President, this resolution is driven, as many of our colleagues have said, by some of the core principles of our movement that go right back to the work of Henri Dunant back in 1859. This is how it all began. Someone who had the courage to speak out in the world and argue the case that there is some action in war that should be prohibited and outlawed as unconscionable and unhumanitarian. And indeed, so much has happened in the world in the evolution of international humanitarian law since that initial principled stand of Henri Dunant. We've seen wonderful reforms and enhancements to the Geneva Conventions over the centuries. In 1949, 1977, people once said that the use of landmines was perfectly legal under international law, that cluster munitions could be freely used, and that those who committed war crimes were not answerable to the international community. All that has changed through the various conventions on cluster munitions and landmines in the International Criminal Court. And in all this, the International Committee of the Red Cross and the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement has been there as a voice for humanity. We're now moving to the next stage where we are sending a very powerful message to the world about this critical issue of nuclear weapons. Now, we have to face the fact that at this particular point of time in human history, not every government would necessarily embrace the terms of the resolution that we're putting forward. But friends, I'm sure you'll agree that this, at the end of the day, should not deter us, because we must ask ourselves the question of what Henry would do at this time in human history. And I think he would be voting with us in solidarity to pass this resolution today. And it's critically important, I think, that we do so because we have to show our independence of government. We are the voice of humanity. Can I conclude just by passing reference to the paper cranes that many of you will see on your desk. This came originally, as most of you know, from the idea of a young Japanese girl, Sadako, who tragically ultimately died from the consequences of the bomb at Hiroshima. But they've become a symbol, a very powerful symbol, I think, not only of the end of nuclear weapons, but also a symbol and an inspirational symbol of the leadership role of young people in driving this campaign forward. And as we pass this resolution, it is my profound hope that that optimism, that spirit, that voice of young people will be listened to and picked up by our leaders in the ICRC and the Federation and in Red Cross and Red Crescent societies around the world, because this campaign doesn't stop after the passing of this resolution. This is the beginning. But if the movement goes forward, as I know it will, humanity and history will thank us for our contribution. Thank you, Mr. President.